Welcome to the Militia Gaming Community. I'm Trigger Militia, and today's video we're going to find the best engine for this Ford GT and put it to the test on the track, the dirt, the drag strip, and then we're going to have some fun. Let's go! I truly am thankful to everyone who has decided to click on this video. I appreciate all the growth this channel is experiencing, and it's because of all of you guys. Also, shout out to the subs, thanks for coming back, and hit me up on Instagram. I actually read all of my DMs and all of my comments, so don't hesitate to send me a message or get in on my monthly IG giveaways. Okay, I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with these build videos, but for the people who are not, I test each engine for the car on a couple track courses to find the best engine. Then I build the fastest and best version of that car for the track, for drag, for drift, and for dirt. And then I share the results with you guys. I also compare the race times with the rest of the cars I've tested to see how each car stacks up in the grand scheme of things. I've got a top 20 for each race that I test on in hopes of finding the absolute fastest cars in the game for each genre of racing. I will tell you up front, this Ford GT was by far the hardest car to test for. The engines were very similar, and thus I had to be extra careful when racing. Usually I only restart the test race if I hit a barrier or I go off-road, but for this Ford GT I had to pay even closer attention because most of the engines were only tenths of a second apart, and tenths of a second could be that I slid just a little too far in one corner. So anyways, this one was very tough to come up with and justify a winning motor, but I have one that I feel confidently is the best engine for the car, so let's take a look at my test results for the track. I tested each motor on the same two courses, Arion and Aardvark. At Arion, the top four engines were the 6.2 V8, the 8.4 V10, the 3.9 V8, and the 6.5 V12. Look at how close the times were between the second place engines. I'm telling you, these things were all very fast. It is not easy to run a 254 on Arion at all. This car has been lightning fast. Anyways, you can see that the 6.2 V8 ran 2 seconds faster than the other three, but this didn't happen straight away. I had to run this test between these four engines 4 separate times, not including the test where I restarted the race because I made a mistake. After all was said and done though, the 6.2 V8 was definitely the best on Arion, and after lots of testing on Aardvark, it was also the victor. I was able to run a time under 4:30 at Aardvark, which is incredibly fast compared to many of the other cars I've tested. Only 2 cars were able to run a sub 4:30 time on Aardvark, and that was the McLaren F1 and the 911 RSR. I mean, that is great company for this Ford GT to be in. I was shocked at how fast this car actually was. I don't know why I didn't expect it, but it's awesome to see another car that can compete with the top dogs. In Arion's top 20, it snags the 3rd fastest time, which happens to be faster than the RSR, the Beetle, and the 488 Pista with me behind the wheel, and 6 of its 7 engines made the top 20. On Aardvark's top 20, it lands 1 motor in the top 5, and all 7 engines make the top 20 list. It's a super impressive car. So here's the track build in its entirety. Starting with this 6.2 liter V8 engine, I added all of the ultimate parts, the dual turbo, the 5x3 pound NOS, super track suspension, elite brakes, elite 7-speed transmission, and super track differential, and you can use whatever auxiliaries you choose. I like the repair kits because I want the car looking clean all the time, and I like the NOS power. Alright, moving on to the drag category. I start every drag build with the track build I just mentioned, and then I swap out a few things and adjust my live tuning settings to achieve the fastest quarter mile time I can. In this case, I was able to get the quarter mile down to 8.53 seconds. Compared to other really fast quarter mile cars, this is actually really good. I always reference the Beetle because I think it's the fastest drag car in the game, but it has an 8.3 quarter mile time. So this Ford GT is only 0.23 seconds slower. This difference in time could be determined by who launches better or who chooses to spray the NOS earlier or later, so don't be afraid to pull up on some people. Now I know some people don't use NOS during drag races, and if they're not, I actually think it gives the Ford GT a slight edge, particularly against cars that have weaker horsepowers but are really fast when you do use NOS like the Beetle. Alright, here's what the actual build looks like. Starting with the 6.2 liter V8 engine, I've equipped all of the ultimate parts with the dual turbo and 15 pound NOS bottle. Then I chose the Super Track suspension, Elite brakes, Elite drag tires, and for the drivetrain I've got the Elite Plus clutch, Elite 7-speed gearbox, and Super Track differential. I also run nitrous mix on my drag build, as it seems to be the most helpful in the quarter mile. For the live tuning settings, I put the steering sensitivity all the way down, and I also put the downforce all the way down. Alright, moving on to the drift category. This one was kind of frustrating for me because I found a build that I actually liked and it felt really good and was easy to control, but it didn't equate to high drift scores. I tried many different setups, but this one definitely worked the best for me. Starting again with the 6.2 V8 engine, I put all Ultimate Plus parts and the dual turbo. The NOS really doesn't matter, you can pick whichever one you want, you're not going to be using it for drifting. And then the 3 parts that I changed to make it drift is the Sport Off-Road suspension, the Elite drift tires, and the Sport Drift differential. This setup seemed to work the best for me, but if you want to make a few adjustments, you can try swapping the suspension and the differential. Each one offers a little bit difference in body roll and throttle control. I think it's also super important to adjust your live tuning to have the steering sensitivity all the way up and the downforce all the way down. This makes it easier to oversteer, and the back end of the car will feel lighter and easier to slide. Alright, let's take this supercar in the dirt and then I'll wrap things up. For my off-road build, I used the same track build to start from, but then I swapped to the Super Rally suspension, Elite off-road tires, and Super Rally differential. Then I raced it on 2 courses that I've been testing the other cars on, HTV2 and Rumble. It's important to note that the difference in time is substantial when you have traction control on. Now I don't know yet if this applies to all cars, but for this Ford GT, the times in these dirt tracks were much faster with the traction control on. As of right now, we only have a few cars to compare this to, and none of them are considered off-road cars, with the exception of maybe the Beetle. But as time goes on, we'll have a bigger collection of cars on the list, and the data will mean a little bit more. I also included a column in the spreadsheet with a combined total time for both races so we can see which car is doing the best overall. At this point, the Honda Civic has the best combined times, with this Ford GT sitting in 3rd place. Now, I know there are lots of other off-road cars, it's not really the point of this video, but as time goes on, my list will grow and we'll have more off-road tests to compare these cars to. So take this information with a grain of salt. I know there's lots of other off-road cars that probably run faster times than this, so just hang tight on that. Time will tell on the off-road section. So to wrap it up, this Ford GT was absolutely surprising in a track application. Again, I probably shouldn't be surprised, but I thought it would be fast, just not capable of keeping up with the F1 or the RSR. Boy, was I wrong. I think it's definitely up there with those cars, and with the right driver and the right race, I think it can definitely compete and beat the RSR and the F1. As far as a drift and dirt car goes, it's very lackluster at best. I wouldn't use it for either one of those categories, but I do kind of like it for a drag car. It's got a very fast quarter mile, and with the right launch, you can keep up with almost any car out there. Well, once again, I hope this helped you in some way. I'm on to the next car. If you have requests for cars that you want me to test, please leave them in the comments. I'll definitely add them to my list. Thank you very much for watching. Trigger out.